If you want an attractive physique, a physique that actually looks good, then you need to focus on building the V-taper. The V-taper is when you have a nice shoulder to waist ratio. This type of frame is extremely aesthetic and it's quite rare to have. So when you do have this physique, you get crazy attention from women, respects from men, and massively increased self-confidence, because when you look in the mirror, you actually have a body that you're proud of, that you like the look of, which unfortunately most people can't say. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I built this type of physique for myself, so that you can basically copy me and get the exact same results. So very quickly, I'll just use myself as an example to show you how important it is to prioritize the V-taper when you actually want to look good. So this is me a year and a half ago at 190 pounds. Nice and bloated, typical gym bro chasing the size. And this is me now, 165 pounds, chasing the V-taper, prioritizing getting lean and building the correct muscles with the correct proportions. Anybody with two working eyes can see that I look drastically better now. I'm the lightest I've ever been, but my physique is the best it's ever been because I've prioritized getting the right muscles, getting lean and building that nice shoulder to waist ratio, and clothes are fitting way better. I'm feeling lighter, I'm feeling amazing because I've got a nice physique. So it's very important to actually prioritize getting the correct frame rather than just building size in general. A lot of people go into the gym and they're just obsessed with the size, chasing the size, putting on as much weight as possible, building as much muscle as possible. But that's something you have to be careful of, because you can fall into the trap of trying to get as big as possible like a massive bodybuilder and actually ruining your proportions, ruining the way that you look, when realistically it's better to just focus specifically on the correct muscles, like I'll talk about, and then getting lean. Very important when you actually want to look aesthetic, and that's when your clothes are going to fit you nice. You don't need designer, because your physique is the designer, your physique is what's looking amazing, and you're going to have all the positive benefits of having a nice physique, which is not really going to happen when you're just obsessed with putting on as much weight as possible. Now there's two parts to getting this type of physique, both of which are very important. The first part is building the correct muscular proportions, like I've mentioned like a million times by now. Those muscles that you need to focus on building are the lats, the shoulders, the upper chest, and the abs. Those are the four muscle groups that are going to be vital when you want to build an aesthetic physique. The second part is going to be getting lean. Getting lean specifically to get that narrow waist, and then also avoiding exercises that are going to make your waist thicker, because that's going to be counterproductive to that nice V-taper physique. If you just focus on doing one of these things, then your physique is not going to look good. It's simple as that, really. For example, there'll be guys in the gym, like I've mentioned, that will just focus on putting on as much size as possible, complete disregard for their actual body fat, and just focus on building muscles, building the wrong muscles as well, you know, doing random exercises that don't really train the V-taper muscle specifically. And they put on size, they put on weight, but their physique still doesn't look good. They start to turn into like a big bulked up bodybuilders, which is not a very nice type of look. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, there'll be people who want to lose weight as fast as possible, and they'll completely disregard lifting weights completely, and they'll just focus on slimming down as fast as possible, you know, doing crash diets, maybe taking Ozempic, something like that. And they will basically become skinny fat because they've not prioritized resistance training, like even forget about the V-taper muscles, but they've not prioritized lifting weights at all. So they lose fat, but their physique is still looking terrible because they've not actually filled out their frame with the correct muscles. So we can't be doing any of those things. We need to be building we need to be building muscle, we need to be building the correct muscles, and then we need to be getting lean all at the same time. And obviously there's going to be periods of time where you prioritize one over the other, but you can still do both at the same time, like I've done myself. And then that combination of both of those two parts is basically the formula, you could say, for building a very attractive physique. Building an attractive physique is something that requires intention, as you can see. It's not going to come by accident. So let's talk about the first part, how to build the wide frame. Now, to build the wide frame, the wide shoulders, ironically, it's not even your shoulders that are the most important. It's actually your back, specifically your lats. The lats, latissimus dorsi, is the full scientific name for anyone who cares. Those are the muscles that are going to create that wide frame, because your V-taper starts at your waist, right? It's the slim waist. And then it goes out like this. The muscles that create that shape, that V-taper shape, is the lats, because the lats start at your waist. They connect to the waist. So when you can build those lats, those muscles correctly, and get strong on exercises that train the lats specifically, then you're going to start to create that wide frame. You're going to start to basically flare your back from the waist. Having wide lats is going to create the illusion of having wider shoulders, probably more than the shoulders themselves, to be honest with you. And the reason for that is that the upper arm rests on top of the lat, so that when you train your lats and you get wider lats naturally, you're going to push your upper arm out to the side, just, you know, resting, so you have that wider frame. Of course, the shoulders are still important to train, and I'll talk about that, but the lats are basically, like I said, the foundation of having that very aesthetic frame. I remember when I first started trying to lift weights a few years ago, I always wanted to see the lats from the front. Like, that was the goal initially, to look in the mirror and be able to see those lats direct face on. I always thought that would look quite good when I got to that stage, and I was right, to be fair. Now, the two main movements that I recommend for the lats, first one is going to be the lat pull down. This one is very effective, stable exercise that I do basically every single session. Some people, well, a lot of people actually tend to view the lat pull down as some type of beginner exercise for some reason. Like, when you can't do pull-ups, you just do the lat pull down until you can do pull-ups. But I don't really view it that way whatsoever. Like I said, it's stable, which means you're going to train the lats more effectively. And I mean, like, take it from me, I can do pull-ups with an additional 60 pounds dangling in between my balls, and I still do the lat pull down every single session, because it's good. It's good exercise that you can progressively overload on effectively. Ironically, it's actually a little bit difficult for me to do lat pull downs now, because I weigh 165 and I have to do 230 for the lat pull down. So to pull the weight down to get started, it's hard. Like, I can dangle on the bar because it weighs more than me. But anyways, like I said, good exercise. Make sure you're getting your lat pull downs in every single session, progressively overload. And if you want to do pull-ups, then you can do them instead, weighted pull-ups. Those are quite fun to do, but the lat pull down is my bread and butter, to be honest with you. Second exercise is going to be the seated row with a neutral grip. That's going to train another function of the lats. Make sure you're driving that elbow nice and close to your hip and not using excessive swinging of the weight, both on the lat pull down and on the seated row. Very important to keep your chest nice and still, basically, when you're doing the movements, and that's going to train the lats effectively. Now, for the shoulders, these are the second muscle group that are going to be very important for building that V-taper frame. Your shoulders have three heads, right? The front delt, the side delt, the rear delt. All of them get trained, but the one that gets prioritized, again, this is a game of prioritization. The one that gets prioritized is the side delt, because this is obviously on the side of your shoulder, and it combines with the lats to create that wide frame, which is very aesthetic, like I've mentioned. So we need to do the exercise that is going to train the side delt effectively. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but the overhead press, especially on a machine where your arm basically ends up directly above your head, that is very, very effective for training the side delt. It's almost the same as the lateral raise, which is specifically for the side delt alone. But it also, the overhead press also trains the front delt as well, which is important for getting the complete cap shoulder look that looks very masculine, right? So that's something that I've been doing, like, since I started, obviously, every single session almost, to get nice shoulders. Now, because the side delt is so important, we also want to do lateral raises, which are going to prioritize the side delt specifically and take the front delt out of the equation completely. So use both of them, good form on all of them. Overhead press, you need to be pressing with your wrist stacked above your elbows, so that, you know, if you're doing it like this, then it's weird. It turns it into a chest movement, basically. And with a lateral raise, you want your cue for the form is to scrape your arm above the ground, across the ground even. Scrape your arm above the ground so that you're not lifting with your traps excessively. Now, the final muscle that's most important for that V-taper physique is the upper chest. This basically fills out your frame, makes you look masculine. The clavicular head right next to your collarbone. This is extremely important to prioritize. Me personally, I don't train, or I don't prioritize, I should say, my mid and lower chest whatsoever. I only do incline movements that are specifically designed for that upper chest, because the reality is that when you do incline movements, you're still going to train your mid and lower chest. It's kind of unavoidable unless you're doing like basically a shoulder press / upper chest movement, like 60 degrees or higher or whatever. But when you're doing 15 degrees, 30 degrees, even 45, although I would stick around 30 on the bench, on the incline bench, you're going to be training basically all regions of your chest pretty well, with a slight emphasis on the upper chest, which is what we want. Because if you emphasize the mid and lower chest, dips, flat bench press, stuff like that, then you're going to get like a saggy type of chest, droopy chest. It doesn't look aesthetic. That's not what we want. We want a filled out upper chest, one that looks good. And the way you do that is by prioritizing the incline movements. I would even go as far as to say, only do incline movements. That's what I've done. It's worked fantastically. The number one exercise I recommend for the upper chest is the incline Smith machine. This is a fantastic movement that trains the upper chest effectively. And make sure when you're doing your incline movement to have a shoulder width grip when you're trying to prioritize that upper chest, because the wider you go with your grip, the more leverage is taken away from the upper chest, which isn't what we want. So that's an important cue for your form. Now, I don't do any other movements for my upper chest, honestly. I just do the incline Smith because it feels fantastic. And when you find an exercise that trains the muscle that you want to train and it feels good for you and it trains it effectively, it's got good leverage, then you basically just stick with that exercise for as long as possible. I don't do flies or, this type of movement, any of that bullshit, because it just doesn't feel nice, to be honest. For me, it doesn't feel that good. And clearly it's not necessary to get a good chest from personal experience. Now let's talk about the second part of building an attractive physique, and that's being lean, keeping the waist narrow, being at a low body fat percentage, somewhere within the 8 to 12% range. This is where you're gonna look the best. This is where you're gonna look the most aesthetic. Now, believe it or not, being lean is more important than building muscle when you want to look good. The reason for this is that, like I mentioned right at the start, you can have a lot of muscle, you can have a significant amount of muscle, but if you're a high body fat percentage, then all that muscle is not gonna look that good. On the contrary, if you are lean and you only have a little bit of muscle, but that muscle is clearly defined, it's clearly visible because you've got basically very little body fat to cover it up, you're gonna look a lot better. Now, this should be something that's exciting to you because it's a lot quicker to get lean than it is to build a significant amount of muscle. Now, the thing is, for men, the place that body fat likes to accumulate the most, the fastest, and is the last to go when you actually try to lose that fat is the waist. And that's not good for a V-taper physique, of course, because if you have a thick waist, then the ratio is destroyed. You start to look blocky. Like you saw from my picture right at the start, at 190 pounds, my waist was thick. I still had a decent amount of muscle at the time because I was training effectively, but the proportion wasn't looking that good. My physique wasn't looking that aesthetic because I had a thick waist due to being at a higher body fat percentage. I was like 18% or something like that. So when you want to get lean, the priority is to get your waist as slim as possible. The way that you do that is by just getting lean, but getting lean until the point where you actually have that shredded midsection. And you can have even veins. I've seen people with veins on their arms and on their shoulders and stuff, but their waist is still thick because they haven't lost that last bit of fat that, like I said, is the last to go. So if you're thinking that you've lost weight but you still can't see your abs or your waist is still kind of thick, the reality is that you're just not lean enough yet. You have to keep going, keep being in that deficit, keep dieting down until that weight starts to drop off. So the way that you get lean is by being in a consistent calorie deficit. That is the most important aspect. The way that I like to do this, the way that I get clients to do this, is by eating only whole foods, because that's going to make it a lot easier and it's going to make you a lot happier, and it's going to make the diet basically go a lot more seamlessly. Because if you're trying to fit in your junk food when you only have a limited amount of calories to eat, you're basically just making your life difficult for no reason, and you're going to feel like shit, and your body composition is going to be worse. That's just how it is. So get your maintenance calories. The way that you do this is by going on a TDEE calculator. If you go online, type in TDEE calculator, literally, you'll get a calculator, you give it some information, and it's going to give you an approximate amount of calories as your maintenance. This is just an approximate number, but you can just play around with this and see how accurate it is. You take away a certain amount of calories from this number that you get. So let's say for me, if I go online and I go on a TDE calculator, I will get like a 3,000 calorie maintenance, right? I'm quite active, I do jiu-jitsu, I walk a lot, I lift weights, obviously. And I would take away a certain amount of calories from this number to be in a consistent deficit. The number that I would recommend is about 500 calories. This is a nice safe deficit where you probably won't feel too hungry. If you're a high body fat percentage, you might not even feel hungry at all, as long as you're eating the correct foods, whole foods. And you can still build muscle slowly in a calorie deficit. When you're training effectively, your body still produces the necessary adaptations to build muscle and get stronger, regardless of whether you're in a calorie deficit or not. Of course, muscle protein synthesis, which is the signal for your body to build muscle, is slightly reduced when you're eating less calories than you need to maintain your weight, but it doesn't disappear completely. So I found that 500 calorie deficit is a nice level where you can get lean at a reasonable rate, sustainable rate, where you're not feeling like shit, but you can still build muscle. You don't completely nuke your ability to build muscle. So that's what I've done myself. That's what I make clients do, and it works fantastically. This is the reason why I don't bulk, for example. Bulking is where you intentionally gain fat and make yourself look worse in an effort to maximize muscle growth. But I found through personal experience and through a lot of experimentation that it's not necessary whatsoever. So I prefer to just control my calories year round, stay looking good, stay looking attractive, and just slowly build muscle from there. Now, as you're getting lean and you're getting that waist nice and slim, another thing that you should pay attention to is your abs. The abs I mentioned at the start is one of the muscles that's very important for the attractive physique because the abs are very visible. When you're shirtless, it's probably the first muscle that people notice whether you have or don't have. So it's important to have visible abs. But the reality is that if you're not lean, you will never have visible abs, no matter how much you train them. But we can still train them to make them look better, to make them look more defined when you are lean. So the way that you train your abs, believe it or not, is the exact same as every other muscle. You choose an exercise where the abs have good leverage, where you can train them in a full range of motion, and you take them close to failure. For some reason, people have this idea, this misconception, that the abs need to be trained differently, that you have to have an ab routine. I get asked this a lot, like on my TikTok, for example. What's your ab routine? What's your ab routine? What the fuck is an ab routine? I train them the exact same way. I train them with either hanging leg raises, which is an exercise which trains them in the full range of motion, emphasizes the lower abs a little bit more, and I do it weighted because my abs are strong enough to do them weighted. Or sometimes I even do sit-ups, but weighted. Not sit-ups like where I'm doing 60 crunches for no reason, high reps and just some bullshit like that. But I'm doing it with a heavy dumbbell because my abs are strong enough to do that. And I'm training it in the full range of motion, and I'm training it until failure. Like I said, the exact same as every other muscle. For the biceps, for example, you do a bicep curl like this, full range of motion, take it close to failure. Biceps have good leverage. You don't train your biceps like this, squeezing with the isometric, which is what you're doing when you're doing a plank, for example, for the abs. However, a mistake that you don't want to make when training the abs is training the obliques, especially excessively. The obliques are the muscles on the side of the abs, and just like any other muscle, if you train them, they get bigger. So what happens when you train the obliques is that because they're on the side of your abs, therefore on the side of your waist gets thicker when you train the obliques, which is the exact opposite of what we want, because like I've mentioned a million times, the V-taper starts with a slim waist. So if you train your obliques and you make your waist thicker, then you're kind of ruining your proportions. So I don't train the obliques whatsoever. The only ab exercises that I would recommend are the hanging leg raises and the sit-ups, or even cable crunches as well. They basically train the same motion as sit-ups. Now here's how you should structure your training in order to build that V-taper physique. I go for an upper-lower split, which is Monday upper, Tuesday lower, rest on Wednesday, upper on Thursday, lower on Friday, and rest on Saturday and Sunday. I almost forgot the days of the week then. Now, the reason I do it like this is because this is a very good balance between getting a good muscle growth stimulus and then allowing both your muscles and your mind to recover. Because when you train, and especially when you train intensely, which is something that's very important, every exercise has to be intense. It has to be close to failure. When you train like this, you get a lot of fatigue built up. You build fatigue centrally, which is in your central nervous system, which has to dissipate by having rest days. And you also build fatigue in your muscles. You create some muscle damage, which also has to recover. If you train too many sessions back to back, then you're going to build up a lot of central fatigue, which means that for the later sessions, even if your muscles are fully recovered, that's a completely different mechanism. Your brain will literally not allow the neurons to fire, which are going to produce the most force for when you're lifting weights, which means that your muscles can't be trained maximally, which means you're not going to get a great muscle growth stimulus. So it's important to recover fully so that we can go into every session, not just with maximal muscle recovery, but with maximal mind recovery and with maximal emotional recovery, you could say. Like, if you train too much, I've experienced this myself. If you train too much, you go to the gym too much, you don't even feel like training anymore. You just get burnt out. You feel like you don't want to go anymore. But when you're just training a few days a week, like 3 to 4 days a week maximum, then every single session you feel great and you actually want to go and lift heavy weights and train properly. And that's when you get the best progress. Now, your upper body sessions should be structured something like this. You choose one exercise for your lats. You choose one exercise for your shoulders. You choose one exercise for your upper chest. You choose one exercise for your upper back. And you choose one exercise for your rear delts. That's just 5 exercises in that entire session. I'm not joking, 5 exercises. And for each of these exercises, you do 2 sets. You do 2 sets until failure. So failure is when you can't move the weight any single more. 0 reps in reserve, right? When you're a bit more advanced and you know how to train to failure, you can go until the point where you know, like you just know that you can't do any more reps. That's what I do. But if you just basically want to be safe, just go till failure. Just go until you can't move the weight anymore. And that's going to be basically the best thing that you can do for your muscle growth. Now, this sounds like a very low volume, right? I'm literally telling you to do 2 sets per muscle per session. And that's what I've been doing for years. And that's what's given me the best results, because you basically get a very good muscle growth stimulus for not that much muscle damage. So you can train every single session, you're fully recovered and you're getting stronger every single week. And if you're a newcomer to the gym, you're getting stronger every single session. So per week, I'm doing 4 sets per muscle group. I'm so serious. I'm in and out of the gym every single time in 45 minutes. That's all I need, because I'm only doing 1 exercise for a muscle group, and that exercise is only consisting of 2 sets. So let's go back to the upper body session. Lat pull down, 2 sets. Overhead press, 2 sets. Lateral raise, 2 sets. Incline Smith machine, 2 sets. And rid out like a face pull or something, 2 sets. That's it. That's 10 sets in the entire upper body session. And I do that on Monday and I do that on Thursday, and that's it for the week. For the lower body day, it's going to be a bicep curl, 2 sets. A tricep extension, 2 sets. By the way, I do my arms on my lower body day because basically the upper body would just get too crowded with too many exercises for one session. So I move the arms to the start of the lower body day, which is quite good as well for prioritizing the arms over the legs, because the legs are not as important, you know, for men anyways. So bicep curl, 2 sets, tricep extension, 2 sets, and then quads, like leg extension, 2 sets, hamstrings, like a leg curl, 2 sets, and then hip adductor, 2 sets. The hip adductor is the sus machine where you go from outside to in, right? So that's 10 sets in total for the lower body day, and it was 12 sets for the upper, not 10. It was 6 exercises, 2 sets each for the upper, and 5 exercises, 2 sets each for the lower body day. This is what I do: 4 times a week, 2 times each, upper, lower. That's it. It takes 45 minutes, or even for the lower, it's like 35 minutes, and it's 4 sets a week. It's so easy. You get amazing muscle growth stimulus, you get amazing recovery every single session. You want to go and smash it, and your progressive overload is going to start to progress each week. You're fully recovered. Realistically, all you need to do is take your muscles to failure a couple times a week with a couple sets, and you're going to see how fast that progress starts to come in. Make sure you track your workouts, track that progressive overload. You can use an app called Strong, STRONG. That's what I've been using for years. The way that you make sure that you're progressive and overloading is that every single time you do a set till failure, you count the reps. Obviously, you count how many reps you do. So let's say you do 5 reps, because I advocate for training heavy with heavy weights, 4 to 8 reps. So you do 5 reps, and then next time you try to beat it. You try to get 6. Cool, you get 6. Then you try to do 7. Then you try to do 8. Once you can reach 8 reps with a specific weight, that's when you increase the weight. It's called a double progression method. You increase the reps by just basically training till failure until you can do more reps, which will happen like every session at the start and then every week. And then once you can reach a certain number of reps, in this case 8, you increase the weight. So every single week you should be increasing reps, and then eventually you'll be increasing weight over and over. And that's just how progressive overload works basically. People tend to miss that simple is often more effective, and that's really the approach that I tend to go for. 1 exercise, 2 sets, that's it. And the exercises that I choose, right, I don't swap them for like 3 or 4 months. Genuinely, I'm sticking with the same exercises every single week for a long period of time, as long as possible, because that gives your body the chance to produce those adaptations that are necessary for that specific exercise. Now, I basically just go back and forth between like 2 machines for each muscle that train the exact same thing. For example, a lat pull down or a seated row, both train the lats. A Smith machine, seated overhead press, or a seated overhead press machine, like not a Smith machine, but not a machine, right? A lateral raise with a cable, or a lateral raise or a machine. A T-bar row for the upper back, or a seated row, like this type of grip for the upper back. Basically just 2 machines that I go back and forth like every 3 months or something. So my workouts for the last 2-3 years have been looking pretty much the same. It's the intensity that you're training at, it's the volume of your sessions, it's the sleep schedule, it's the eating habits that really determine your results. So once you've got a good exercise selection, even if that's just 1 or 2 exercises, then you don't really need to deviate from that, because that's going to get you all the results that you need. Now, if you train in the way that I've described in this video and you hit your deficit consistently, you get lean, you can build such an attractive physique, it's not even fair. Genuinely, for the simplicity of the diet and the training and the amount of time that you put into the gym, it's literally nothing compared to the results that you can get. It's like a cheat code. So for your nutritional needs, by the way, hit 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. So if you're 200 pounds and you're 20% body fat, that's 160 grams of protein. For fat, do 0.45 grams of fat per pound of total body weight. And for carbs, you just fill the rest of your calories in with carbs. For your training, make sure you're hitting those sessions 4 times a week. Upper lower is very good. Do training till failure. Do training with intensity so that you can actually get the most out of your muscles. And yeah, as long as you do those things consistently, the results are going to speak for themselves. If you want more help to build that attractive physique, ask any questions you have in the comments. If you want to work with me directly, one-to-one, check the top link in the description. We'll work together, build you that attractive physique as quickly as possible. If you're not ready for that just yet, then check the second link and join my community where you can start building that sexy physique. Links in the description if you want to look sexy.